Testing. Okay, class is officially in session. You guys know that when the wand comes out, you know what time of the month it is. Welcome to my January wrap-up video. Get a snacky poo, get some popcorn, your coffee, glass of wine maybe, because January was full of bangers, okay? You guys, this month really just set the bar so high for the rest of the year, and I cannot wait to yap about these because there was not one book that was under 4 stars. So let's get into it. Cell phones on silent, on D&D. Class is in session. Get your notebook, get your pens, get your pencils, and let's get into my January reads. Quickly interrupting, this is future me, just kind of like looking back on my intro of the video. I never really explained my rating scale to you guys, and I'm still like kind of trying to figure it out. I've been more of a harsh rater lately because I really want to take my time with how these books make me feel. I rank my books out of 5 stars. 0 obviously being the lowest. A 3-star to me is still good. Like I would still recommend a book to someone if I rated it a 3. And then a 5-star is like a feeling. It doesn't have to make logical sense to me. Like if it just sparks so much emotion out of me and has me really thinking about the book like days or weeks or months after, that is a 5-star read to me. 5-star could mean that like I still have some complaints about the plot and stuff like that. But again, 5 stars is more emotions based. It's just a feeling, girl. A 4-star to me is still insanely good. Like that's like a must read. But yeah, I've gotten some questions on my rating scale, and that is how I rate my books. It's not really that deep. However, I do take my ratings very seriously. I take my Fable and my Goodreads very seriously because I want to develop my own opinion. I don't want to be swayed by others. I want to have my own critical thinking thoughts, and I don't want to just like read what everyone else has to say and then make a review off of that. So that's why to me 5 stars is 99% of the time based off of emotions, a feeling. So yeah, just prefacing, that does not mean that I don't think there are holes in the plot or anything. Like 2 can exist at one time. You know, there is duality with everything. So just keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. And I also want to preface that these are just my opinion. In my opinion, okay? I've been seeing a lot of like book talkers or just like people who talk about books get like a lot of hate because of their ratings and reviews. And I'm like, but it's your opinion. We could read the same book and you could rate it a 0-star and it could be life-changing for me. And that is okay. That is okay because duality, right? 2 things can be true at the same time. So take that as you will. These are just my opinion. Anyways, let's move on. So I just want to preface that this will be a spoiler-free review until we get to Onyx Storm, because I have a lot to say about that one. In one of my previous vlogs, I did a little Onyx Storm weekend, and some girlies have been requesting a spoiler-filled review. And instead of me doing a whole separate video for Onyx Storm, I thought I would just combine it, but I will definitely give you a heads up when to click off the video if you haven't read Onyx Storm. That is your homework, okay? And then when you're done, just circle back and let me know what you think. The first book we're gonna get into, this is actually our January book club pick. If you aren't in the Besties book club, I don't know what you're doing. We have a grand old time, and every month we all suggest books that we want to read, and then we do a vote on it, and the top 3 get into like a for realsies vote, and then from there we vote on our book club pick of the month. And so for January in the Besties book club, we read Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. You guys, this really just set the tone for me for the year. To preface, I had just come off of When the Moon Hatched, and so I was in need of a palate cleanser, and this was the best book for that. First 3 words that come to mind when I think of this book is entertaining, easy, and just like overall captivating and engaging. You don't need to use a lot of brain cells to figure this world out, which I really appreciated, especially coming from a higher fantasy book. And so from chapter 1, I was immediately captivated. It was a very easy ride. It wasn't over explained. My biggest pet peeve with fantasy is when authors just kind of like info dump. I did not feel like this at all throughout any of the book. I never got irritated. So it's essentially a witch versus a witch hunter. It's true enemies to lovers. The plot twists, the betrayals, and the tension in this book. There is spice, but it is closed door romance, so we're not getting a lot of like graphic detail of what's going on. But honestly, I feel like I didn't really miss that because the tension was just described so perfectly, and it was giving yearning, groveling, and overall just so entertaining. I ended up rating this a 4.75. The only reason why it's not a 5-star is because I was expecting more from our FMC. This isn't a spoiler, it's literally in the synopsis, but she is the Crimson Moth, and so she's described as this clever, sneaky, always like scheming girl, yet we don't really see a lot of that. We only got a couple scenes where we really get to see Rune in action. I just wanted to see more from our FMC, and I loved our MMC in this book. He really just bared his soul. We got to see like the most vulnerable parts of our MMC and just the reasons why he is the way he is. This book was just truly entertaining to see these two main characters like have this banter, have this tension, and have this chemistry. The romance and the banter were perfect. The betrayals and the ending, girl. The ending had me down bad. And so with that being said, I will be picking up book number 2, which is actually releasing this month, February. And so I cannot wait to dive back into this world. I would highly recommend this, especially if you want to dip your toes into the fantasy world, but you don't want immense world building. You don't want anything too overwhelming. So yeah, this was like the best book for me to start off 2025. So I'm so glad this was our first book of the month in the Besties Book Club. Next, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I just don't want to cry. This has been on my TBR for almost an entire year now, and I can't believe it took me this long to pick up this book. Immediately from the jump, I was hooked. The way this author writes is just so beautiful. She took us through Addie's walks of life, and the main themes that really stuck out to me were grief, passion, the painful truth of being a woman in both the pre and postmodern world, the themes of power, depression, and loneliness. It also felt like every chapter had a lesson to be learned from Addie's story. There are a lot of times in this book where I underlined and tabbed, and to me the main theme of this book was the moral dilemma of wanting more out of your life. We all want so much out of our lives, and yet sometimes it's just like impossible to achieve certain things that you want. And so that's essentially this book. Not a spoiler, but she makes a deal to want more out of her life, to walk her own path. From that, we get all of these life lessons that just hit so deep. And you guys, the plot twist at the end had me so unwell. By the last 20%, I was tearing up like every chapter. And again, the writing style is just so beautiful. She really knows how to captivate a reader through Addie's life. I was just completely absorbed into this world. I did not want this book to end. Yeah, there's nothing really else to say besides this book was just so beautiful. I ended up rating it a 5-star, and this was my first 5-star read of the year. And I really want to read more books from V.E. Schwab. This was just that feeling, you know, it was just a 5-star feeling, had my emotions through the roof, had me crying, had me giggling, kicking my feet, and it just had me immersed in this world. I was so captivated by the way the author writes. So yeah, first 5-star of 2025. Next, you muggles, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I have some qualms with this one. This is a 4-star read to me. J.K. Rowling has a way with her words. Like, she can have you happy and laughing with the characters 1 second, and then literally the second after will have you so frustrated and pissed off and ready to throw hands. Professor Umbridge actually needs to like hop in the ring with me, okay? I think that's also why I couldn't rate it above a 4-star, because I was just so frustrated. But at the same time, that means it's a really good book, and that means it was really well written. I took that into consideration because I'm like, if I'm getting this frustrated over a character, that means she's written really well. Like, she's doing what she's supposed to, eliciting emotion out of the reader. Also, I feel like this book so far has had the most differences from book to movie adaptation. I definitely feel like a detective when I read Harry Potter now, because I'm like, oh, that wasn't in the movie. So I definitely feel like one of those like Harry Potter sticklers. I used to be a hater to them, but now I fear that I am a Harry Potter stickler. But rightfully so. If anyone can get through this fat series, you have every right to be. You deserve a patch, a badge of honor. It also really helped fill plot holes for me, because it's around this time during the series when I'm like watching the movie, I get a little confused. I'm like, what's the Order of the Phoenix? Like, what are we doing? What is Dumbledore's army? Who's Luna Lovegood? So actually reading through all the nitty-gritty details of the Order of the Phoenix just really made a lot of sense to me going forward, and I just cannot wait to watch the movie because I want to be a stickler. Like, I want to point things out. Also, just the level of detail in these books are just insane. The world is just so beautiful, and I truly had a great time in this world. So yeah, with that being said, The emotions elicited from reading this book definitely gave me that 4-star or higher feeling. Definitely not a 5-star. It wasn't like I was itching to read this book at all times. I wasn't reaching for this book as much as my other ones, but nonetheless, I still had a great time in this world, and I'm really excited to start The Half-Blood Prince this month. It's on my February TBR. This book was fat. I wish this book was like maybe 100 to 200 pages less. I didn't think it needed to be like this big. It's giving Bible, but nonetheless, there were so many funny moments between Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and honestly, like, I know it's like just kid humor, but I was giggling. I also found myself to be really frustrated with Hermione in this book, which is the first time I ever encountered that emotion with her. I just hated how everyone was treating Harry like just a little kid. Although he is like a kid in these books, like, he has seen so many things that other students have not, yet let alone professors, and I just did not love the treatment of him in this book, so that's what also got me frustrated. Everyone is just treating him like he was this naive, annoying kid, and yet he has gone through the most out of all the students at Hogwarts. Yeah, it just kind of broke my heart that everyone was just treating him like a little child and not really validating his feelings. He had every right to be like super outspoken and just like yelling at people all the time. Like, I would do the same probably if no one wanted to hear me out after living through what I did in the past book. But yeah, other than that, I had a great time reading this book, and this was a 4-star read for me. Last but not least, you guys already know what book is coming up last. I saved the best for last. This is my last read of the month. I'm glad I ended the month with this book. However, it has put me in a book slump, and I haven't been in a book slump since reading Throne of Glass. And this does not mean I'm comparing Fourth Wing to Throne of Glass. Very, very different. Like, to me, Throne of Glass is high fantasy. So I'm not going to compare a romantasy book to that. However, the emotions elicited from the Empyrean series is very similar to how I felt with Throne of Glass. The agony and the turmoil and just like the existential crisis after finishing these books are just very similar feeling. For me to even talk about this book is already giving me emotional damage, but you guys already know. Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I need to like take a couple deep breaths. I came into reading this book with very, very low expectations because we all know it's book 3 out of the 5, okay? Naturally, we need to preface this because I feel like a lot of people don't get the concept about book 3 out of the 5. There is gonna be plot holes, girls. Okay, there is gonna be plot holes, and there is gonna be a lot of frustration with certain things that happen in the plot. And there's gonna be a lot of frustration with characters because it's book 3, in my opinion. Again, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of the reviews that I've seen on Goodreads specifically are like literally attacking Rebecca Yarros for her character. What are we doing? I've just been seeing a lot of people compare high fantasy to romantasy, which, please, we need to realize that they're very, very different. High fantasy is going to develop a plot 1,000 times more than a romantasy book because the focus is on the plot. Whereas romantasy, like, we want the spice, we want the banter, we want the tension. Not saying high fantasy can't do that, but a lot of the focus for romantasy books is on the love part of it. I will eat it up every single time. That's why I read romantasy books. That's just my diary of a thought daughter. Like, if you're gonna critique something that's not even within the same playing field as another book, I feel like that's just very flawed reasoning. But again, that's just my opinion, my humble opinion. Anyways, Onyx Storm, 5 freaking stars, infinite stars for me. This had me giggling, kicking my feet. This had me sweating, and this had me sobbing, as you could see in my Onyx Storm weekend retreat video. I'm also gonna mention that I have never had to wait for a book to come out in a series. I've been so spoiled reading Sarah J Maas's books. Like, I haven't had to wait for anything ACOTAR related. Like, I could not imagine waiting after you finish like A Court of Mist and Fury. Imagine having to wait for ACOWAR. I don't even know if I want to know that version of myself. Or like even with Throne of Glass. Imagine finishing Empire of Storms and waiting like a year or 2 for Kingdom of Ash. Just thinking about that makes me want to throw up. If you survived that wait, I am scared of you because you were literally so strong. I applaud you, and I'm actually terrified of you because you must have like the thickest skin. Nothing can get to you. You're just strong, girl. And I love that for you. However, with me, I'm a very emo girl. So if I have to wait, my emotions are just gonna be heightened and heightened and heightened, which is what this experience was for me. Like when we did the unboxing in my previous vlog, I'm not kidding, I almost started crying because just the anticipation of waiting for the next book in a series is actually insane. And I've never had that feeling before. Actually holding this book in my hands made me terrified. But anyways, let's actually get into the contents of this book. Spoiler free first, then I will do a spoiler segment and I'll let you know when to click off the video. So spoiler free, I very much loved that we got to see so many surrounding characters enter the chat. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, absolutely devoured, absolutely love them. Together, those are 5-star reads for me. However, it was more so romance based because it was just really following along Violet and Xaden's story. I loved that, I ate it up. I did not care about the surrounding characters. And so when I first started reading Onyx Storm, and we see surrounding characters enter the storyline, at first I was just like, ugh, boring. I take it back because we get to see so much personality from the characters in these books, and I feared that I wouldn't be able to connect to the characters as much, but this is the most connected I've felt out of all of the books, which is crazy to say because Fourth Wing and Iron Flame are both so good. The thrill of reading Fourth Wing for the first time was really hard to beat, but I have to say Onyx Storm, for me, in my opinion, is the best out of the three. I know, I said it, don't be mad. Again, I connected with so many characters. I thought this book was hilarious. Like there were so many funny parts and just like comedic relief parts that we really needed because this book really took a turn like to the dark side because we all know what happened at the end of Iron Flame. So we're still navigating that problem, but I will say this version of Xaden. Also, this version of Violet, no words. Her character development in Iron Flame needed to happen for her to be this amazing in this book. I love Violet and I think she's becoming my like top 5 FMCs of all time. Her strength, her resilience, her self-awareness, and just overall intellect, like she was so clever in this book and I loved seeing her really in action. And I also love that we kind of expanded on the world and I loved the quest squad. If you know, you know. Just more world building and a lot of amazing dialogue between the characters, especially between Xaden and Violet. Like they are just hitting different in this book. It's giving power couple for real. This new side of Violet and Xaden is just unmatched and I love to see it. Iron Flame walked so Onyx Storm could run is what I'm saying, okay? And so going back to my rating, do I think that there are plot holes? Yes. Do I think there were parts where I was like, this didn't really matter that much? Yes. Were there parts where I was just like really frustrated? Yes. There are a lot of flaws with this book. However, 5 stars for me is a feeling and just the amount of emotions that this book elicited is just insane. I haven't felt this level of emotional attachment to a series since Throne of Glass, and I fear for my mental health right now because that post Throne of Glass slump was insane. I didn't read for like 3 to 4 months, so I am in a bit of a slump right now. I took 2 days off of reading after I finished this book and it killed my Fable streak. I had like a 30+ day Fable reading streak and I had to break it because I just could not pick up another book. But I am reading again. I'm reading Anathema by Carrie Lake and I'm enjoying it so far. But you guys, the emotions from this book is just insane. The ending. If you didn't see the vlog, I don't know how else to tell you how I felt about it. Like my raw reaction to the ending is literally on the internet for the public to see, which is a bit vulnerable of me, a bit bold, but I just don't know how else to explain that level of emotions to someone without like just like showing them, you know, through the screen. So yeah, this was a 5-star read for me. This was that 5-star feeling. This just truly destroyed me. It's just crazy because I went into this with little to no expectations. I was like, no, it's book 3, it's not gonna be good. And this just totally rocked my world. And I also loved the amount of information that we received within the first like 25% of this book. A lot of theories were being answered and a lot of theories are being debunked, which I appreciated because I'm a part of the fandom, right? But fandoms get very out of hand in the sense of like theorizing some crazy stuff. I think that's why I've been hesitant to theorize more lately because I'm just a little overstimulated and I kind of just want to enjoy what's, you know, in our faces instead of just like hopeless thinking of what could possibly happen. But yeah, it was very satisfying seeing theories debunked, seeing theories like resolved. And we also have some new characters entering the chat, which I am so excited to see coming into book 4. I think book 4 is actually gonna destroy me, and I'm literally gonna be like 30 years old by the time it comes out because Rebecca wants to write a contemporary romance and then she wants to go on vacation with her kids. I'm here for it. If waiting a bit longer means a very thought out book 4, I'm here for it. I'm ready to cry again, honestly. It was a great experience. My rating still stands. It's a 5-star read for me. And now, with that being said, I want to get into some spoiler stuff. But before you go, we need to do a comfy cozy cult moment. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you should know. I'm not going to explain how you would know. If you're still watching, you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I love you. And so if you made it this far, comment down below the wand emoji, because I absolutely love having my wand in these sit down videos. It just signifies our monthly book wrap up, and it's just so fun yapping about my books. Yeah, if you made it this far, comfy cozy cult, comment down below a wand emoji. Anyways, now we're gonna move on to a spoiler review. So if you've not read Onyx Storm, please do your due diligence and read the book. Finish what we have in the series, and then you can report back. You can come back to this video and we can yap about it when you're ready. I will give you 5 seconds to click off this video before I start just yapping about Onyx Storm. But if you want to stick around, just skip to this part of the video. Okay, since y'all are gone, let's get into it. First off, I'm not flipping you off. The ring? Bro, I knew that was gonna come into play because it was hinted at so many times throughout the book, like him calling her consort, him like talking about marriage. We know that he is Venin and he's the Duke now. You need to get your ducks in a row. Like, who's gonna be inheriting if, you know, somehow homeboy passes? We need someone to take the throne. And it could be Bodhi, obviously, because he's the cousin. Remember that scene where Violet looks at his nightstand and the sword of Tyrandor is there and one of the gems is missing? Not me like completely overlooking that. When that happened, I tabbed it. I was like, seems a little sus. But I just never thought that it would be for a ring. This man. So let me pull out my notes because I have quite a bit of things to say and I want to be organized and I just want to talk about it. Also, if you want to talk with me about it, like in the comments, I would comment down below saying like something like spoiler in like bold or something. So that way, if anyone is in the comments and hasn't read it, they can like know not to open the comment fully. So if you want to yap, and I'm so down to yap in the comments, just put spoiler in bold and then put your message. We're always looking out for all the besties here. Onyx Storm notes. Okay, the number one theory that I would like to talk about. I think Bodhi channeled and turned Venin. Here's why. Chapter 65, in Xaden's POV, he says, how could he do this? Choose this after watching me stumble and fall over the last 5 months. How could he willingly walk the path I fought like hell to leave? He's the last person I would have ever expected to turn, and yet here we are. And also, why else would Xaden slip the ring on her finger to marry her and make her the heir of Tyrandor if he ran out of options if Bodhi channeled? So yeah, I think Bodhi channeled because also, I forget which chapter this was, but it was either in Imogen's or Rhiannon's POV where they saw Bodhi retching on the battlefield. Why else would he be retching? To me, I think he channeled. He started puking because he was turning, and now he's Venin brothers with Xaden. And just the ending was just so crazy. And clearly Imogen wiped Violet's memories. He like committed a crime, basically. They're gonna be after Xaden, and the first person they're gonna question is Violet. And to me, it's just obvious that Imogen had to wipe her memories because she said, what you told me to do. But that makes me think there was a plan in place, or they had a separate conversation, like Imogen and Violet, like to just protect Xaden at all costs. I don't know. I think it just was to protect her from being persecuted by the government, because we all know that Xaden and the king do not get along. Like, Xaden only cares about Violet and Tyrandor, and like, as he should. So we also know that 4 riders are missing with Xaden. So I think it's Bodhi who channeled, and I think it's Garrick who's taking the missing dragon eggs to Umbriel, because that's what the priestesses of Dune wanted. They wanted dragon eggs. Are you catching my drift? But I don't know who else would be missing because it's not really explicitly stated. But to me, those are just like the obvious 2 riders that are missing, Bodhi and Garrett, because they want to take care of homeboy Xaden, and someone needs to bring the eggs to Umbriel. So anyways, another thing, Quinn dying was not on my bingo card. I never connected with Quinn. She was just such a background character for me, but that scene was just so sad. Imogen replaying like the memory of her and Quinn becoming best friends on conscription day. Oh my gosh, I started tearing up in that part because they were just besties. It reminded me of Rhiannon and Violet. Like, if anything were to happen to Rhiannon, I may throw this series away because that would just be insane. So I cried when Quinn died. Can we also talk about how Riddick carried like 50% of the book and made the quest even more fun? Riddick was the comedic relief for me in this book and made this book just a lot more like lighthearted. He was so hilarious. There were so many times in the book that I tabbed of just funny moments, and 90% of it is Riddick. I love that we got to see more of Riddick's personality. He's always been that like funny character in the series, but he really had a time. And then aside from just Riddick, can we talk about how all the men in this book carried? Like, they all had a time, and I was eating up all of their dialogue. Dane's dialogue, suddenly I'm the biggest Dane fan. I am living for Dane's redemption arc. To me, his redemption arc was in Iron Flame. When he saved Violet and he came to his senses, it's not me easily forgiving him because obviously what he did was wrong, but it's just me being real. He is literally like 22 years old. He was raised from the Colonel Ados, this prominent power figure. And so the way he was raised was just to live by the codex, live by the rules, never question authority, right? So if you were raised like that, would you say that you would easily abandon that? I don't think so. So I am Dane's biggest fan. I loved his redemption arc in Iron Flame, and I just really love his development over Onyx Storm. And it was just so funny to me that Dane's purpose on the quest squad was to be the translator. And tell me why every time he went in to translate, Arik just ate him up. That had me dying. He was just trying to like fumble to bring out his notepad to translate, and Arik is just speaking fluent to all the aisles they went to. And then when Dane got slapped in the face at that one aisle, I don't remember, but like with the god Zinal, and he just had to take it and say thanks. My bestie and I were dying laughing. Mans could not catch a break. Like, for real, he could not catch a break. Yeah, that was so freaking funny to me. I have two more things that I'd like to discuss. One, how did Violet replace the power she lost when Andarna left? She could still dreamwalk when Andarna was not around, so clearly she can still channel somehow. And this leads to a bigger theory that Violet channels from the sky because of the three brothers story in Iron Flame. I don't really want to get into it because I don't think I have all my facts right, but I think Violet somehow channels from the sky because that storyline was introduced in Iron Flame, I believe. So I'm like, why else would she introduce that story? Like, something's gonna happen where it's gonna be revealed. I also think Violet's second signet is gonna be so crucial in book 4 because I think that's gonna be the way she can find Xaden, through his dreams. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit underwhelmed when it was revealed that she could dreamwalk, but at the same time, it's so unique that we haven't seen anyone do that. If it could somehow find Xaden, I will be content with that signet. I thought it was very interesting, and it's crazy how obvious it was in Iron Flame because she was literally in his dreams. I'm like, why else would that happen? So that was interesting. And so also going along with the fact that she could also channel while Andarna left, how could she still communicate with her dragons when they were visiting the Isles and there was no magic? Everyone else was cut off from their dragons. They couldn't communicate with them, yet she still could. I don't know. I don't have a theory for that one, but I just thought that was interesting. And then my last thing is that Violet thought it was weird that Dane and Brennan didn't have any marks after healing Mira with Sloane as the siphon. I don't have a theory for this, but I did tab it and explicitly just like described that Violet did a double take when Dane offered to step in to like siphon his power to give to Brennan, and Violet was just like, that's weird that they don't have any marks after healing Mira. I don't have a theory for that one, but I did make note of it. So if you have a theory, I would love to hear it. I would love to hear any theories that you have. Yeah, that's what I have so far. I'm definitely gonna expand on this list if I do a reread. I think it's too early for me to do a reread right now because I'm still traumatized and I'm still trying to climb out of this slump. So I just don't want to re-traumatize myself and put me in like a 6-month reading slump. So yeah, that's my theories. Again, if you want to yap, I'm so down to yap. Just make sure you put spoiler in bold so that way all the besties know and we don't need to spoil it for the besties, you know what I mean? But anyways, that is all the books that I read in January. Again, such a great reading month for me. None of these books were under 4 stars for me, and I just had such a great time entering all these different worlds. This just really set the bar so high for February. I will honestly be proud of myself though if I read at least 1 book in February, because again, Onyx Storm put me through the trenches and I'm still trying to recover from this book slump. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and listening to me yap about my books that I read in January. Let me know if you read any of the books that I read in January. I would love to yap about them and hear about your experience reading them as well. Yeah, it's so much fun. I always have a good time with my wand. is in play. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Love you, bye.